Hi guys, welcome back to Braving It Season 2. I'm very excited to be presenting this to you. I've got some fantastic guests lined up. This time around in Season 2 of Braving It, we are touching on so many different facets that make up our lives. And so mine is to facilitate a conversation that will help you propel you forward as you navigate this thing of life. And so welcome to Braving It Season 2. With me today, I've got my business partner, Sfiso Sibanyoni. Guys, this guy is shocked. I have spent the past 8 years with him every single day in our studio, wherever that may be. This time around, it happens to be in our homes, but 8 years we've been running a business together, and here we are, partner.
About time, no?
About time, right? So listen, I've been trying to get you to do this with me for some time. And I know it's been so hard, guys, because we naturally are running a business, a whole business. And listen, partner, when you approached me to potentially partner with you in business, this was 2014, was it?
2014, early 2014, yeah.
And literally 8 years ago, and I was highly pregnant. I was like 5 months in. And were you, just humor me for a second, were you at all worried that I would back out on this soon-to-be business partnership? Because I mean, who's stopping me from saying, "Hey, man, I just want to do this. I want to do this mothering thing." Were you sure that I was going to go ahead with the?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't sure. I couldn't be sure. I didn't need to be sure. I think from the initial conversation, I saw that we really hit it off. I think it was clear to me that I wanted to carry on with the relationship and the business partnership. And it was clear to me that you'd also want to get into that. So I had no doubt that the minute that you were able to, you'd jump back into the conversation. So it was clear from day one, and I was gonna wait for you to get ready, get to where you needed to be. And I'm glad I did. Here we are.
Here we are, still, hey? Still doing this. Listen, partner, the reason why I really wanted to get you into studio is I know some things about you that are fascinating. You are one of those guys who have such a fresh perspective on life, a very different, unconventional outlook on life. And so if we are braving anything on this episode, today we are braving your road less traveled. You are that guy that pursues the road less traveled. And it obviously requires some degree of bravery from you, I suppose,
I guess,
Right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, one of the first things that I wanted to talk about, which I was exposed to early on in our partnership, was that I remember we were filling out forms, applying for funding. We were applying for funding, and I said to you, "Can I partner undergrad?" And you're like, "What undergrad?" And so, but really, I was fascinated at the fact that unlike most of us who really aspired to going this whole classic tertiary institution route, your route was very unique and very different from the get. So maybe tell us about that route. What did you do when some of us were applying for varsity?
So I didn't go to university. That was the first thing. I think I was lucky in that I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Sort of long before we have to get to that stage where we have to apply and it starts to get nervous around standard 9 matric or grade 11 matric. So I was already by that stage pretty clear about what I wanted to do. And I was clear about where I wanted to do it because, while university is right for some careers, I felt for the path that I wanted to take, it probably wasn't the best route. So I chose different. I chose not to go to university. I chose to specialize. I was in technology and IT, so I chose to go straight into certification courses, specializing in exactly what I wanted to do. So from the word sort of get go, I was writing international exams that would get me in line with other IT pros in the space, and having still an internationally recognized qualification that was specialized in the field that I wanted to do. And I thought for me it would give me a much quicker way into the space, into the industry, because I was really clear about the space I wanted to be in. I almost didn't really need to figure it out over a couple of years. And it really allowed me to hit the ground running in my professional IT career. So yeah.
So let me take you back a few steps. You spoke about grade 11, grade 12. You were very clear on what you wanted to do, and that was IT. There was a keen interest in IT.
Yeah.
But how did you move from so naturally your parents are like, okay, Sfiso, what are we applying for? Where are we going?
Yeah.
What did you say to them? Because I'm trying to figure out how you got to the certification aspect, you know?
Yeah.
So which institution or how did you study to get to being certified as a professional IT person?
So yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, both my parents are academics. They were teachers their entire careers, and both quite learned as well. And education and formal education is quite important in the house. And certainly even to me, I recognize that as quite a key aspect in one's growth. So I knew that even if I wanted to do something unconventional, it would still need to be solid. I couldn't just say, I don't want to do that, but I don't really have a plan, or I've got this wishy-washy kind of thing. I think I'm going to go into this space or something like that, So I had to be very clear about, if I'm not going to go into this route, this is where I want to go.
Okay.
And this is how I can still achieve the goals that I had set for myself and the things that you as my parents, for example, want to see happen for me. So it took a lot of preparation into first figuring out what it is that I wanted to do and how different it was from the conventional. Then where to do it, because that was also quite important. There's credibility around the institution that you choose and the qualification that you walk out of there with. So it was very important that I was able to walk out with something that was credible. Cost was a big thing as well. So it had to be comparable or easier than traditional institutions.
Okay.
I had to take all those things into consideration before I could even come up with the courage to even take the conversation to my folks. So I literally did that. I had to do almost like a little business case of, okay, so mom and dad, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to do it. I had to get info. I had to get reviews. I had to find out when the open day was. I scheduled it in for them. And when I went to them, I came to them prepared, and I said, this is what I'd like to do. Hear me out.
Yeah.
This is the work that I've done. This is the research that I've done. This is what I walk out with. This is what I can do with that.
Yeah.
And I really think this is where I need to be, I think any less, they would have maybe not have taken me seriously, and it would have made the conversation difficult. But I really made it so difficult for them to dismiss my suggestions or my desires. And yeah, they could only support it at the end of the day.
Because you had done the work.
I had done the work. Yeah, I had done the work. I had found the place. I had researched it. I had read up about it. I had, figured out people that have gone there before. I figured out the open day and all of that. And when I presented it to my parents, then, they were able to then almost take it seriously from day one. And I was quite clear as well. I didn't come with wishy-washy ideas. I came with a clear plan. And they were able to support that, and I was blessed in that way.
So, what was so different about it from the classic IT, courses that you would find in your typical institutions? What about this particular route was so unique and so different that you were looking for?
In IT, it is quite a broad field. So, if you know what you want to do, it's easy to specialize. Other sort of tracks try to expose you to as much of the field as possible with the hope of eventually narrowing it down to some sort of speciality, which would then take the 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Okay.
But if you're clear about what you want to do, you can go straight into specialization.
Another, because you tried to explain this back then, I was like, so basically no. So nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
But what fascinates me about you, partner, is that you are one of those very self-taught human beings.
Yeah.
You go looking for information, and it helped you build your business case because you are very curious about things, right?
Yeah.
And just I'm going to take you back a little bit more because I know so much about you and how you even landed on this whole idea of IT. There was a young boy in your life who you were fascinated by, who had a computer at home. How did that love for IT come about? Because you were young, you weren't even exposed
Yeah.
to IT and it being a profession that you could pursue.
Yeah, I had no idea. We had a family friend who was slightly a little bit more affluent. And so we went over for, it might have been lunch or something like that. And I might have been in standard 3, grade 5. That was the first time I actually even first saw or touched a computer in my life, and I was hooked. I was hooked. It was literally, I was like, okay, what is that? I need to know how that works.
Yeah.
And yeah, what's in there, what makes that function, what makes it tick. And that's where my love for technology got ignited, and it's never stopped and it's never switched on since. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Another fascinating thing I find about you is that, you know, soon after you did your IT and you worked a little bit in that space, you once again pursued the road less traveled. You went into business. So this is after your stint in working for a few institutions.
Yeah.
But very early on in your life, you pursued business.
Yeah.
When others were trying to apply for jobs, you were trying to establish something. Where did you get the confidence to do that, partner? Was there members in your family who were already in business? Were there people that you were looking at and drawing inspiration from? Or was it just something that you just felt obligated to pursue?
Yeah, I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs or business.
No one.
No one really. It's certainly not someone that I could draw on and touch base with and model, but quite interestingly, when I think back, and I really, really think back, my grandfather, who is my mother's dad, was an entrepreneur. I didn't realize at the time I was a baby, but he was an entrepreneur. He's probably the only entrepreneur that I can draw back to in my family. And he used to take me everywhere with him. I grew up with my grandparents, as most of us in the 80s did, while our parents worked in the city. So I spent a lot of time with him, and I would see him as a black man. He ran a coal yard, a coal business, so supplying coal in the township or community that he stayed in. So he would have to have suppliers, which were obviously mines and predominantly white business owners, and he would then have to negotiate with them and then come back and sell the coal in his community. So I got to spend some time with him. I was very small. It was under 5 years old. It's only now when I think back, where could this have possibly have come from? He's what I can sort of draw back to. But besides that, I didn't. It was. I can't say it was sort of like a burning. I worked in corporate. I did well in corporate. I did progress pretty quickly and pretty rapidly through corporate. I loved what I did. I loved technology. I felt, and I was blessed to be working for companies that appreciated my skill and my innovation and my drive. So I did progress very quickly, maybe too quickly. In organizations, I got to a point where I was pretty senior, and then out of the blue, the company was retrenching, and I was in line to be one of the people to be cut off, as I had been with the business for not a long time. So it was first in, last out, or first in, first out kind of situations. And I think that's when I realized really that this security, this false security that is usually associated with corporate, it doesn't really also exist, and that can also be taken away at any time. Also during my time in employment, I'm like you said earlier, I'm naturally curious, so I'm always coming up with ideas, looking and seeing gaps and presenting them, seeing the bigger picture, seeing a long-term vision, and starting to get a little bit frustrated within the corporate structure that you can have great ideas, but it's not your business. At the end of the day, there's not much you can do with it but bring it up, and sometimes even if you bring it up and it does well, you get very little credit for it because the business does well, and not necessarily you. So I'd always been in a space where I wanted the opportunity to be able to bring some of these ideas to fruition in my own space. Like I said, I'm sort of blessed with a little bit of an ability to see a long-term vision, plan well, see gaps where other people can't, find easier or more efficient ways to do certain things. And I think business really lends itself to exactly that. So it was natural. The minute that my security was threatened in corporate, I was like, okay, that's that. I've seen what I need to see here. I was lucky I was still pretty young. And probably one of the greatest things I did for myself was to start early, because what I've since seen is that there's going to be a lot of figuring out and a lot of back and forth and trial and error.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to go through that when I was relatively young still. But yeah, it was clear then that I definitely have the appetite and sort of the ability to make it in business. And I jumped straight in and haven't looked back since. It's been over a decade, yeah.
How old were you, by the way, when you jumped into business?
23, 24.
23, 24.
23, 24, yeah.
Shucks.
But then I'd been working for a little while by then.
Yeah.
I think I'd been working for probably the last 8 years by then, and had a solid sort of stint in corporate and working. So I was blessed to be young, but yeah, I did it, yeah.
Partner, business is not easy. And by the way, I call him partner, others call him Butom Dala, just FYI. We'll talk about that. Why? The why about Butom Dala. Has nothing to do with the wife.
Yes.
Guys, business is hard. Business is tough, and we've been through it. And we've worked with some young people, some very talented young people along the way. Some have really shown up, others have not. Most, in fact, in our space have not. Where do you think the problem lies? Because we are coming across talent, so the skill set exists, but there's a lot that doesn't. What do you think the problem is, partner?
I think there are a lot of problems, and it depends where you are and where your need is as a business. When you're trying to identify talent, and the gaps could come, manifest themselves in a certain way. For example, in our business, we work with a lot of freelancers, and we try to bring them into a little bit of a structure, because our clients are corporates who expect a certain structure, who have a certain structure, and expect us to be able to meet them where they are. So our challenge in our business then becomes either finding freelancers or youngsters that we're able to mold into some sort of structure so that we can deliver to our client. And sometimes deficiencies can be prevalent or can show themselves in that. And that may come from either having worked in a formal environment and not understanding some of the challenges and how you show up essentially in a formal environment. As a freelancer, there's this false notion that you run your own time, you run yourself, you're your own business, but you're still accountable to your client. And that accountability and that responsibility is something that you would normally learn in a formal setting, in a formal environment. So a lot of the youngsters, especially in the creative space, who haven't had that, tend to lack that. So it's something that can be taught. We see that a lot. The other problem that I see, and then it comes as a sort of a lag, is there's when we are young creatives. If you decide you want to be a creative, there's really nothing stopping you from creating. And that's what our guys don't do. If you say you want to be a photographer, a videographer, an animator, even when you don't have a client, even when you don't have a brief, there's nothing that's stopping you from sharpening your craft by creating. Come up with something, build something, animate something, shoot something. Keep doing that in your downtime. When there's no work, you need to be constantly creating, because it does two things for you. It sharpens your skill, you stay sharp, you stay up to date, and it builds you a little bit of a portfolio. So when somebody wants to work with you, you've got something that you can show that says, I can do this kind of work. So I'm finding that guys, young creatives who are sitting out there are not using their time well. They're not using the resources out there well. We've got YouTube, the University of YouTube. I'm like 80% taught of YouTube on most of the skills that I apply in my businesses today. And I'm not formally educated in any of them, bar IT. And on all of that, in all the other spaces, in creatives and all the other businesses that I'm in, I taught myself by spending time and either learning the craft and then creating in the space that I had no work or that I was waiting for something to come to me. So that allowed me to be ready when an opportunity came to me, and then I was able to grab it. And I found myself in all sorts of unique situations because I was ready at that time, and I had something to show for it. And I guess even more importantly, and I hope we can come back to this, I put my hand up. I put my hand up at that time, yeah.
You know, the other thing that you didn't mention that I would like to talk about is what we call hygiene factors.
Yeah.
So you spoke about honing your skill, you know, through practice, through learning on YouTube, seeing what others are doing, how things can be done. But where I have experienced a shortage or a deficit when it comes to creative talent is this hygiene factors that we talk about. And it's not the classic hygiene factors that, you know, we see out there. It's the showing up on time. It's the delivering on time. You know, it's the communicating when you are facing a difficulty. It's all those other things that really appease the client, that keep the clients coming back. Where do young people learn this, partner? And I just want to start you off by saying, in your response, by saying that we work with a lot of corporate clients and we know how they want us to show up, and it's all of these hygiene factors that come with showing up, yeah? But, you know, where do we expect young people to learn how to communicate better, how to show up on time, how to deliver on time, how to have the sense to always answer their phone and keep their phones charged up? Yeah. You know, where else? Because I doubt YouTube has those type of soft skills,
not.
You know?
Absolutely not. And funny enough, even though it may not have that, those things can be learned.
Where?
I'll get to that. I think for me, and this is maybe on across the board, it all comes or starts with taking yourself seriously. Taking oneself seriously, taking yourself seriously. If you decide that you want to be a creative, you want to be a freelancer, you want to be a professional, you want to be a consultant, anything that says, okay, I'm going to be this professional, this skill, and you're going to take people's money in exchange for doing that, I think then you have to take yourself seriously. When you take yourself seriously, one, you take yourself seriously. Two, you take your clients seriously. You take your work seriously. You take your industry seriously. You take everything around you seriously, to a point where I don't expect the guys to always have these skills when they walk into our doors. But somebody who takes themselves seriously will say, when you give them feedback and you say, you know, this is something that you can improve on, they will take that seriously and apply it. If somebody says, you know, we're happy to teach all these things, we're happy, we have kickoff sessions, we have, you know, inductions, even corporate have this. If we want to bring you into our environment, we're going to try and help you or teach you how we work and how we expect you to show up in this space. If you take yourself seriously, you will take that in, because I promise you, there's learnings, there's key learnings, there's crucial info and knowledge that you can derive from that. If you take yourself seriously, that stuff will land, and you'll become a better creative individual, professional because of it. If you don't take yourself seriously, then things are just gonna bounce off. They're gonna bounce off. Sometimes they're gonna land. Sometimes you're gonna think, yeah, I don't know, I don't think about that. I think I know better, or, you know, attitudes. Who are these people? Whatever it is, if you don't take yourself seriously, and then obviously you're not gonna take the next person seriously. You're not gonna take their time seriously. You're not gonna take their attention seriously, and it's a knock-on effect. And I find that very early we're now getting to a point where we can discern when we interact and we bring in young people into our space who takes themselves seriously, because you can see them. You know, if you basic things, we set up a time for an appointment, for a meeting. How do you show up? Do you get there on time, late, early? You know, do you apologize? Do you manage us ahead? Do you take the opportunities that are given to you to ask questions and so forth? You know, little things that don't need to be taught by anyone, but I can definitely see, if you take yourself seriously, you'll want to know that.
It will show.
You'll want to know that. You'll want to know, why am I here? Why should I be here? And I want you to know it's important, that it means a lot for me to be here. And that will show in your conduct, in everything around you. So yeah, it starts there. I can work with someone who takes themselves seriously, and we can definitely help them learn those skills and get further.
I agree. I've seen a pattern in how we are able to maintain a certain, group of young people. And it's always the young people who, like you've so rightly put it, the ones who, when we invite them into our studio just to get to know them a bit better, they arrive either on time, or if they're slightly late because of things that they can't control, they communicate immediately. And you see them huffing and puffing as they are walking through our doors. You can see, this person is so distraught about the 20-minute delay that they've had. It's genuine, it shows, And then they sit down and they speak. But even through their nervousness, we're able to see the desire to want to be there, And so even in their posture, so it's small things, guys, I suppose what we're saying is that no one expects you to come fully packaged, fully molded.
Fully packaged.
It's just wena as mutu, unyagang for wopilo ba gago. That's it. And the rest can be taught from there, hey? And we call it in our agency finesse, hey? Finesse.
Finesse. We can teach finesse. But you really have to have the attitude, and you have to show up in that space. There's no shortage of opportunities in the world. You just have to show up.
There was something that is quite, again, unconventional that I want to bring to the fore, because we've spoken about how the talent needs to show up. How do you think clients who have decided that they are going to empower young Black businesses need to show up for those young Black businesses, understanding the challenges that young Black businesses have? Because as we agreed, to whom much is given, much is required. So even we recognize that as people who are in a position to employ, to empower, there are some things that we have to understand about public transport, about certain things in life that our young freelancers would naturally face. What do you think clients who have decided that they are going to improve their score by approaching young Black businesses also need to, what sort of things do you expect them to adjust to with the understanding of empowerment?
I think absolutely you're right. Just like when we work with young talent, there is a level that we expect the guys to be at, and understand that for us to integrate them into our supply chain, into our business, there's a little bit of hand holding and walking with them that we have to do. But what we use as a filter is, do they take themselves seriously, and how do they show up? And I think that definitely still translates and should translate to when large corporates work with small businesses. We have no delusions about the fact that when we work with a large corporate, we are punching above our weight. Straight up. Technically speaking, there is no reason that a large corporate should be speaking to an agency of our size, because of our experience, because of our technical ability, and what we've managed to produce up until that time. But the minute that you are open and you're doing a development job, and you're trying to build, and you're trying to invite suppliers into your supply chain, then I think you need to also understand where they are and what kind of challenges that they are sort of navigating as a business. I don't think we're in any way saying that businesses need to drop their standards when working with small companies. Not at all. I think one thing that we've managed to do, and we thrive on and we love, is our ability to rise to large corporate expectations as a small business. And I think that gives us a good advantage, edge in the market as well. So that's not what we're saying at all. But I think once we get into the supply chains of large corporates, I think there needs to be an understanding that the guys that we are going against within those corporates and the agencies and the other people that supply that business traditionally have been around for a lot longer than us, have a better relationship with the client, are traditionally bigger footprint in the market, and so forth. So like for like, we would not be able to compete with them. And that's not our point. That's not what we're trying to do as well. But we certainly can service the business, the larger corporate, within a defined space, in something that we're really good at, and where our size and agility allows us to still take advantage of that. I think what we need from corporates is also that appetite to work and to build. I think development is about building, and building is a two-way street. If I look at some of the clients that we have interacted with in our business, I think it's the clients that have taken time to walk the journey with us and to build with us that are now enjoying a supplier that is exactly what they need, that is able to meet them exactly where they need to be met, that is price conscious, that understands their business well, because they took the time when we were figuring ourselves out to walk that journey with us, and also understand that we are on a walking journey. Like I said, nowhere do we ever say drop your standards for small business at all. I think if anything, it's a great opportunity for small business to raise to that occasion. But once they are there, then also understand the context within which they operate, and the context of how you want to interact with them and what you are trying to achieve with that small business. Because for me, if you're going to bring us into your supply chain, there needs to be a very definite objective that you're trying to achieve, and where everything and how you interact and all activity with that business is geared towards that. And you have to be intentional, and you have to be clear.
To whom much is given, much is required. It doesn't exempt, large businesses as well.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
Partner, I remember with just working with young suppliers, because my role, by the way, in our visual arts agency is I play more a business development role, and I naturally just, manage the operations of the company as well as the talent of the company. And working with these, young people, you once said to me, Guti, Larat umuntu akalahlwi. And this is where it really is exactly that. To say even small businesses, it applies to them as well. When large businesses are looking at small businesses, a business excuse me for my broken Zulu, but you get my point, right? Is to say that there is a certain degree of tolerance, of patience that's required when you sign up to the development agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you have that mandate. Because we are not where we are because we want to be, as small businesses. We are trying to get bigger. We are trying to get out there, and the only way that we can do that is with, there's some bravery also from large clients to see us where their large suppliers are, because trust me, their large suppliers were also small at some stage. They were also backed at some stage. They were also persisted with at some stage. They were also accommodated at some stage. And not to sound entitled, because like I said, never ever did I suggest that we drop standards for small businesses. We are very happy to meet and exceed those standards, but understand the mandate within that and the framework that you're working with, and the motive of the development agenda. Why are you doing this? Why are we doing this? At the end of the day,
That's why I like you. So opinionated, guys. Partner, you hold some very strong convictions about just life in general. Do you believe that you will succeed in business?
Yes, absolutely.
Why?
I think success in business is inevitable. You just have to be there when it happens. That's one thing that I've held from the very first day that I got into business. I think anybody who's ever been successful in business only did that because they hung in there long enough for the success to find them. And it's just about either structuring your life and your circumstances to withstand that weight, or just having the tough skin to weather the storm. Because if you're doing the work on a day-to-day basis and you're getting up and you're going and you're putting in the hours, it's only a matter of time before that finds you. And like I said, you just have to be around for that. So without a doubt, I think in many ways I've been successful in business. I think my journey is still very, very, very young as an entrepreneur. There's so much that can still be done and that I still have to figure out. But I have no doubt that if I'm around, if I just stick around on this journey, success will definitely find me.
I like that. So that means it will find me too. Finds you, it finds me too.
Oh, you think I'm here too,
Okay. Some of the many conversations we've had, we've had lots of conversations, but one of the conversations we've had have been around religion. You know that I'm a bona fide Christian. Ashta. Turned elder.
Yes.
all of it.
Mamfundisi.
And you, like me, were once a bona fide Christian as well. Bible studies type Christian levels,
cell group,
you know, cell group type.
Yeah.
And that all changed.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very much so. What happened and where are you now?
I guess, are you asking what are my religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs?
So what happened to the Christian walk?
Yeah.
And what are you drawing? Where are you drawing strength from?
So I'm not religious anymore at all. I think I definitely grew up religious. I'm from a very religious family. I spent a lot of time within religion. It was good to me. I think it helped formed the person I am today. Obviously, within my growth, and since we've already said, I'm naturally very curious. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of things that are going around in my head, and I ask a lot of questions. And I started asking questions around everything naturally that is around me and around my growth of who I am, what I believe in, where it comes from. I think my religion was one of the first things that was a casualty of that process, because it was no longer providing the kind of responses that I think were necessary for me to keep growing as a person. So certainly, maybe in an order of how things happened, I think firstly my Christianity was a victim of that. Then religion as a whole. Then even, I guess, what we call spirituality. Now, I guess, all these processes and all these belief systems that I put through my own internal sort of tests and checks and balances, and sort of all falling short at around similar issues. In that they're not able to provide the sort of answers that I think are satisfactory to me and my understanding of the world as it is today. I think I see religion, all religions. So when I say religion, I'm really not just talking about Christianity, but all religions. I see those as earnest attempts by the people at the time to sort of make sense of where we are, why we're here, this entire conundrum of existence, the meaning of life, and so forth, So I really see them as attempts at the time to come up with these answers, and they came up with these belief systems that we've carried through. But I like to think more on a universal scale, and any sort of answer or response that only pertains to a small group of people or one species or one geography, and that doesn't sort of encompass everything else, for me starts to fall short. For example, a lot of our religious systems are based on where you happen to be born in the world. So location. So if you happen to be born on that corner of the world, you believe that, and you believe that's the answer to it. But if that answer excludes everybody else in the rest of the world, I start to question, is that the answer for us? And I think through that kind of process and that kind of questioning, belief system, traditional human belief systems started to fall away, in my view, and to a point where, for example, now a lot of what we believe at the time or is carried in religious doctrine, we now have scientific explanations for. For the longest time we thought, Earth is it. It was us. That was it. There was nothing else, and we were center of everything. But we now all of a sudden understand how infinitesimally small or irrelevant we are in the bigger scheme of things, and how we are really not the center of anything, and even as humans are not the center of anything here either, even on this rock that we live in. So any response or any attempt to answer that places us as humans above everything else here, and as almost, I guess, to use the word, ordained to inherit all of this, I think I find very limiting.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when my journey sort of walked away. And right now, I'm not in any way spiritually or religiously inclined or hold any of those beliefs.
So ultimately, you have a problem with the fact that the human race has been put above all else.
Yeah,
above the
as
plants,
a start, I think
creation.
not even has been put that we put ourselves above all else, because no one else is telling the story, right? It's literally that we put ourselves, and all of this is for us, and all of this is because of us. But when we've been around for a few thousand years, now we understand that, and when we even look at how similar we are to all other species around this planet, anything that seems to make us superior, I have a problem with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where do you draw strength from?
Yeah. So I was thinking about that. I don't really think about spirituality as a tank that needs to be filled and depleted when you interact with life. Because I don't think about it that way. I don't obsess with knowing more. I think so. I don't feel like my tank is low. I need to fill it up. How I feel and how I interact and how I question and ask myself is, how close am I to this moment right now? How close am I interacting with reality, with life right now, and how close am I interacting with everything around me? And if I feel detached from that, then I will do the things that will bring me closer to that. And you'll be surprised that those are quite similar things that everybody else. It could be like spending time with family, spending time with my work, spending time with my art, creating. It could be in servitude and giving and serving other people. But those things, I guess, in a way, fill up my cup. But I don't see my cup as empty or full or needing replenishing. It's just, am I aligned? Am I present in the moment at all times? And if not, how do I get closer to it? Because I don't see myself as sort of harboring this spiritual tank, because I'll need it in the afterlife, or I'll need it on Judgment Day. It needs to be full on that day. I'm trying to interact with life in the moment as it happens here now. Yeah.
I like what you said there about not shying away from the thing that you are feeling. So in that season of scarcity, in that season of difficulty, you either confront it and feel it, because that's part of the human experience.
Yes, yeah.
And if it overwhelms you, you have channels and methods in which you bring yourself towards yourself again. That's spending time with family, investing in your art, or just spending time alone. And that's very, very interesting, because I think we do tend to shy away and not want to experience the things, the full embodiment of the human species.
I think for me, that's the real meaning of life, right? And it's available to all of us, to feel and experience the full spectrum of experiences and emotions. And I mean, it's natural to want to shy away or stay away from what we deem as negative or painful experiences. But there's, even in that space, there's so much learning, there's so much realism, there's so much, it's so tactile, it's very few times other than when you're in pain, where you can really feel in touch with reality, and that sometimes can even be a privilege, and only if you see it as that way. Because really, what is negative and what is positive, all of these things are things that are just happening around us. We attach the emotions to them, and then we respond a certain way. So I think we have the capability to experience and feel the full range, and I don't think it serves one to try and run away from that, because there's lessons, there's growth that happens in that space. Yeah.
The one thing that's always amused me about you, and we're nearing now the end now, is your view on death. Guys, this guy is the most relaxed person when it comes to the subject of death. You not only do you not fear talking about it, you embrace it.
Yeah.
You just again, that's part of the human experience,
Yeah.
And could be a beautiful one at that. Some of us don't even want to talk about it half of the time,
Yeah.
How are you that comfortable with death?
It's inevitable.
It's the most sure thing.
It's the most sure thing. I really struggle with how as humans we struggle to deal with that. Since the beginning of time, if there's one thing that has happened more consistently than anything else, other than time moving forward itself, has been death. It's coming to each and every one of us. It's in fact not just us. All other life, all life on Earth goes through this experience. And so that's the first part of it for me. Is I could either spend my life obsessing and being consumed with it and its inevitability, or I could live. I think once we start to embrace death, we embrace life. More than anything else, we stay present. I think I look at all other species. I don't think any other species on Earth or in the universe perhaps obsesses with their mortality and death as like we do. You know, they just get on with living. And we spend so much time obsessing with what we can't change and what we will not even know has happened to us when it actually happens. What you're not doing perhaps is living your life now, and you're obsessing about, am I ready? Will I be ready? Am I ready to go? Have I done the things that I want to do? You're rather obsessing on that, yeah.
Talking about that, the life aspect is perhaps a lot of us want to have done and achieved so much before that happens to us, before the inevitable happens to us. Partner, you have done quite a bit yourself in business in particular. You now have a daughter. You have a good network of good people around you. What does success look like for you?
Yeah, I think.
Are you successful right now?
I'm successful.
Okay.
Yeah, as a human being, I'm successful. Definitely according to my standards.
Yeah.
I am, because for me, success is, are you interacting with life at the moment fully as you can with what's presented to you? Because ultimately, I think that's all you can do. We can set our external expectations of what we think success are and measure ourselves against other people and other people's journeys, or even certain pillars. You can say, I want to be successful in business, or I want to be successful in sport, or want to be successful in parenting, and yeah, you can choose and try to define what that means for you in that space. And I think that's almost like a never-ending rabbit hole that you can go down, and you can always change. You can always move that point, right? You can be success today is 10 rand, and then be like, no, success is 15 rand, or success is 7 rand 50. If you're seeing that things aren't going well, so I don't like to put those kind of parameters.
Yeah.
I think everybody's journey is different. I've certainly now learned to embrace my own journey. And not compare it to anybody else's, even in terms of business success, and you say the size of your business and your net worth and all these other metrics that we use to sort of measure each other and ourselves. They are important only to play the game. They are not important to me as a person. They're not important to my happiness. What's important to me is, am I alive? Am I present? Am I honest? Am I brave in the moment? Am I putting my hand up? Am I stretching myself? Am I trying to go where I've never been? Am I trying to help someone with no expectation from coming back? Am I just showing up? And I always ask myself all those questions. Am I doing better at the time? And for me, if I can answer the question there and then, I'm successful, because if I die in that moment, I'll die as success. You don't ask me what my turnover of my business is, because I only get measured every Feb. So if I die in August, you won't know if I was a success until next year, end of the financial year. That's not how it works for me. So for me, I'm a success. I'm here today in this interview. I'm present. I'm giving the most of it. It was a successful interview. I'm a success. Amen. If I don't make it home today, I will have died successful. Yeah.
That's why I like you. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible, partner. That's absolutely incredible. And there you have it, guys. This is why I wanted him here in the studio. Very raw, very authentic, and exceptionally brave. Thanks for coming, partner.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
for having me.
Thanks for watching, guys.
See you tomorrow.